Hello, my lovely soul, and welcome to Unstoppable Confidence. I am your host, Lauren Glick. I am here to bring you my energy, my motivational speaking, and me being a confidence mentor. My mission is to inspire women to own who they are, step into their higher selves fearlessly, and live a life with unstoppable joy. On this show, we are going to cover everything from aligning your life to your higher self, setting boundaries, self-growth, and living a purpose-driven life. Let's get you living a meaningful life you cannot wait to wake up to. Stop driving and start living with ease and abundance. Cheers to living a magical life. And I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Now, let's head into today's episode. Staci, I am super excited for you to be here today. And I know my audience, the lovely ladies listening today, will get a lot of insights from you because as everyone knows, most of my guests are coming from Clubhouse, and Staci Danford is definitely one of those women that the first time I heard Staci speak, I was like, where did you come from and why are you not famous? Because like you can inspire, like the way you talk is so inspiring, and your stories and the way it must be it's just who you are, Staci. So I would absolutely love for you to introduce yourself to the lovelies that are listening today. So how did you just tell us a little about yourself, Staci.
Okay. I am a definite Southern. You can tell the minute I start talking. Born and raised Southern, country girl, farm, cows, horses, all the stuff. But I was a teacher for 25 years. And I had one student, worst student I ever had in my whole life, that changed the whole trajectory of my life. I went back to grad school to become an educational neuroscientist, and I have never looked backwards again.
An educational neuroscientist. And I want to say, Staci, for the listener right now, what in the heck is what does that even mean?
I know it's kind of fancy, but it's really not that fancy.
It was very impressive when you told me that. I was like, ooh, a neuroscientist.
Ooh, that's what I am. Yeah. My degree is called mind-brain education. And so it really is understanding the difference between the mind and the brain, and then educating people on how to use them together, how to use them separately, and what's going on in your head that you can't see, because we're so trained in this culture. If we can't see it, we don't believe that it's real. But you don't see anything that's going on in here, and that's where everything happens.
I don't think I ever heard you say like what neuroscience is and what you studied. So that's interesting, the difference between your brain and your mind.
Right. Yes. And people think they're the same thing. And I did too.
I think, I mean, right now I'm like, what do you even mean the difference between your brain and your mind? I guess it would be like the cognitive thinking part versus like the mechanical.
Yeah. Well, okay. So your mind is like your thoughts, and thoughts create connections, and the connections are the physical mechanisms of your brain. So your brain is like the machinery, but the thoughts make the machinery work. But then the machinery also alters the way we feel about our thoughts. So they work simultaneously, but yet they're different. And one can change the other if you know what they're doing. And I always say your brain power is your superpower, but only if you know how to use it. Otherwise, your brain is using you, because 95% of our thoughts are on automatic or autopilot, and only 5% are actually cognitively being processed.
That's interesting. So being in control of your mind, which is actually your thoughts, will control
the mechanisms,
the
physical wiring systems of your brain.
Because I was going to ask you, like, okay, so how do we get, and this is going to go right into gratitude, I'm assuming, is how do we control the mind aspect of ourselves?
I think that's where people, we hear the word mindset all the time. And matter of fact, it's kind of become so cliche that
it is.
Yeah.
It's like, what does that even mean anymore?
Yeah. But really, I can tell you that we just let our brain do what it does.
Yep.
And if you don't talk to your brain will talk to you. The only problem is it says what it always said, which is 95% repeated thoughts from day to day to day. Wow. So if you think you're suck and you think you're fat and you think your family's on the wrong side of the tracks, or your life's never going to be what somebody else's is, your brain does not care what's good and bad. All it knows is repeated patterns. And that is a repeated pattern that your brain thinks, oh, you like that pattern. I'll let you do that pattern again tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. It's all about patterns. And when you can create your own patterns, you just unlock the whole magic of your own mind.
God, it's 5 minutes in and I'm like fascinated by you already, Staci. Like I've never re-listened to any of my podcasts. I love every one of my guests, but I'm like, oh my God, probably because I love just furthering myself as a human. And that's everything to do with the mind and being able to focus in on my future self rather than my past self, because being able to change how we're using our mind is controlling the brain aspect of it.
Yes. And if you keep thinking what you always thought, you're going to keep getting what you always got. Yeah. And so when you change your thoughts, and people say that phrase, change your thoughts, change your life, but people are like, what
does that even mean?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
But what happens is when you change your thoughts, so if you think of these like little wiring systems, they love to connect to the same place they always connect to. Yeah. But when you change your thoughts, you rewire them so they go somewhere else. And then you've got thoughts that need to attach to something new. And if you have old patterns you want to break, you've got to create a pattern interrupter and then shift the pattern. Otherwise, the brain keeps going through the motions. It's lazy. Our brains are lazy. And the number one thing it wants to do is be speedy and efficient. The best way to be efficient is to use a pathway that's already built. Most of those just suck.
Just like they say, the brain is a computer system. And to reframe your mind, we just get to do the pattern interruptions like you were just saying. I guess I'm just reframing that for myself and the listeners out there, just to be like, oh my God. So to be able to, because I mean, it's huge in coaching, is like imposter syndrome and really getting out of your own way. So are those two things that if we're able to get a hold of our mind and change the way we see ourselves and show up, that's just like us living our future self. Like, I want to be that person making 100K a month. Yeah. I'm going to show up as that person before I make that amount of money, rather than just living in your past self. Like, I make 5K a month, that's just who I am,
The only way that will happen though, is for people to actually believe that pattern. So there's something in the brain called the belief bias. And that's why some people's vision boards work wonderful. Some people's don't. Some people's affirmations work fabulously. Some people, they never believe them, because your brain knows what you believe, not what you say and not what you think. So you can like try to think, oh, I'm fit, firm, and healthy. And your brain's like, girl, you're 50 pounds overweight. Like, your brain knows what you really believe. And it doesn't matter if you say all the right stuff. If you don't believe it, it is not going to happen. You will never, ever outwire your belief system. That is the strongest, most valuable part of your brain. It's belief bias. And when you change that, that's when you change your life.
I remember you talking about this. And when it's like the law of attraction, I remember you talking about that, the movie, The Secret, I believe, and the difference of that belief system and the affirmations. But when you actually truly take the affirmation and turn it into an incantation, I don't know if I'm completely off here, Staci, but when you actually feel it in your body is when that change happens.
Yes. And if you can believe, it's just so important to shift your words just a little bit, because your brain understands what words mean, especially words we've said over and over and over.
Yeah.
And just like the word lose, and people are always saying lose weight. Well, what are we programmed to do? If you lose something, what do? You go look for it.
Yeah.
That word itself has a brain schematic pattern. And so your brain instantly, if you say lose, you lost your husband, you lost your...
You got to go find that weight now.
Yeah, you have to go find it. So just little things like that. And like the war on drugs. What does war signify? Danger, fear, terrible.
Yeah.
That is never going to bring about something positive just in the phrasing itself. So when you're writing your affirmations or saying things to yourself, make sure that you don't say, I'm going to no longer be a fat ass. Like that. I had somebody that was their mantra. I was like, no, don't.
It's like, no, but what do you want to be?
Yes. And say, I'm working toward being healthy. Because if you say I am healthy and you're not, you're instantly activating this belief bias, and it's going to shift your wiring systems off a new direction. You've got to say something you'll believe.
God, you just blew my mind speaking about like differences between, and that's the thing is I've been studying like mindset, and I read a lot of self-development books all the time. And it's like, oh boy, it's like the never ending like rabbit hole of things that we get to learn for becoming a better version of ourselves.
Amen.
And taking that, because it's always like, because especially, and I really want to say like on Instagram, there is a lag of like, oh, this is the cool topic like 2 years ago. So everyone's talking about like mindset and affirmations now. And if you take like, especially affirmations, people, especially like they're on this road right now saying like, speak what you want to be. And I like how you had that intersection of, no, I'm working towards being that person because you believe that system, instead of saying, oh, I'm a millionaire. Well, you don't believe that because you're not a millionaire.
Yeah,
but
your brain's like going, liar? No, you're not.
It's like in taking those goals and splitting them up into making them small actionable goals and really moving forward. It's like, okay, well, you want to have like 10. So I was working with a client yesterday, and she has a summit in Clubhouse. And I was like, okay, from that summit, how many clients do we want to get? And it took that like lofty goal of like, I want 100 people in my course in January. I'm like, but is that believable? And she was like, and I'm like, okay, let's do it by a weekly. Like what's tangible for you on a week? Like how many clients do you think you can get in just 1 week? Like this is a new course, a new coach. And if we break it down into small, believable action steps, of course, she's going to be more, she now has a bigger belief system. And oh, so 10 people in my course. And what does that take a week? Okay, well, that's only going to take like, half of a person a week. So yeah, of course I could do that. So I absolutely love that belief system is.
And if you can write it to where you believe it, you can still get any goal you want. And so you can say, I'm going to be a millionaire by 2030, but that's also too big. I'm gonna be. And if you say, I am working toward becoming a millionaire by taking action steps daily, that's an affirmation your brain can believe. It's just little shifts in the wording, because once your brain builds like a little file system or a schematic pattern for what that word is going to go dig that pattern up. And that's what that word means. So millionaire, maybe it feels very far away. Maybe it feels very close. But if it does, create a schematic pattern to get to it. Like I am working toward becoming a millionaire by taking action steps daily.
Yeah.
That's an affirmation you can believe.
Absolutely love it. I mean, just the difference between the brain and the mind. And I know when we started chatting in Clubhouse, I think it was like a couple months ago, maybe it was just a month ago, but I know that you like to talk on gratitude as well. And I would love to how does gratitude go along with the mind and the brain? Like, what is the benefits? How does that all work together?
Okay. Well, first of all, gratitude is another one of those words like
Yeah.
mindset. It is out there everywhere. And sometimes it makes my hair stand up on the back of my neck when I hear people talk about it, because I'm like, no, that's not what science says.
Yeah.
But gratitude, the way I got into gratitude is so crazy. So that was the worst student I ever taught in my whole life.
Yeah.
And I was teaching at the time AP Art Humanities and art history and all that. And I had this student who came into my class that had fresh from military school, terrible, chip on his shoulder, mad at the world. He did not care two flips about art or humanities. And he was awful. I had never had a kid I couldn't reach. I was always the fun, cool, make you learn. My kids always behaved. He was awful. Well, my daughter was a senior in high school at the time, and I was telling her about this kid, and she was like, Mom, what do you know about him? And I was like, well, I know he's awful. And she said, exactly, you know nothing. And she said, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my
Thanks,
God.
daughter.
Yeah, from my 18-year-old. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, treat him like a person, and then he'll treat you like one. And so that very day, I decided I was going to tell him one nice thing about himself every single day.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it was brutal because he was awful. And I'll never forget the first day. He was so bad that day. And I'd already made myself a promise. I'm going to tell him one nice thing about himself every day.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of was, I love the way you part your hair. And he looked at me.
There you go.
He was like, lady, are you on crack? What is wrong with you? But that was all I could think of. But that was the day I started. So every day I kept going. It took 3 weeks before he even acknowledged my presence in the universe. And I remember he kind of looked at me and nodded. That was the best I got, 3 weeks, but I did it every day. Then 6 weeks in, he walked in my classroom and he said, yo, what's up, Miss D? And I was like, oh my God, you spoke and you said it with kindness. Oh my God. It took 6 weeks.
Wow.
Well, then as the year went on, he literally became my favorite student. He was my best student. He was awesome, but only in my class. He was hellion in other people's class. We ended up getting kicked out of our school, or he left our school to go somewhere else. Went through a terrible rocky road, rehab, all kinds of stuff. But he called me one day and he said he was in town and did I want to go get a cup of coffee? And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to see you. So we went and got coffee, and I asked him, and I said, Andrew, why did you treat me so differently than you did everybody else? You would have had such a different experience. And he said, Miss Danford, you smiled at me every time you saw me, and you acted like you were grateful I was alive.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God. I thought it was going to be, I opened his brain to art, or it had nothing to do with what I taught him. And that day I went home and started researching about smiling and about gratitude, because I had never heard them used in any kind of context like that. And I found out there was a whole science behind gratitude and smiling. And I was like, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to figure out how to do that, and decided I would go back to grad school.
Holy moly, Staci. I've never heard that story.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. He changed the trajectory of my life, and it's been 15 years and he works for me now.
Really?
We still talk every single week and have all this time through all of his ups and downs, and he's come out on the other side, and he still tells me the same thing. He said, you believed in me and you smiled at me when nobody else would.
I love it. And it's the simple acts of being grateful for his presence and maybe that's the difference between to start that gratitude off, right? And how it's different than like how people are like, oh, just be grateful.
Yeah.
And it's like, how, and is it because the way that your daughter told you, like, Mom, are you like, do you know anything about him? How is that Do you see what I'm trying to get here, Staci? Like, how
Yeah.
is that like that change of the gratitude? Like, how do you see
It
that?
will. It was so different than anything I'd ever heard. I mean, we all hear the word gratitude and grateful. And I always thought it was manners. Like, are you grateful for the gift you got for Christmas? Did you write your granny a thank you note? You know, are you grateful for this dinner I cooked? It was always in getting something. It was never necessarily about giving something, or grateful for the intangibles or the simple things. And so really people confuse it with manners and the word thank you. And in my own, that's what my whole graduate research study was about, is gratitude. Thanks to Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. And I found that in my study, 88% of the people think they're grateful. And only 4% were actually scientifically grateful. Is that not crazy?
That is.
4%. And in order to get to the scientific gratitude, there has to be an emotional component. You have to feel something to the point where you've had an emotional reaction, which means you've also had a chemical reaction, and the chemicals alter your brain function.
That's crazy.
No chemicals, no brain function. You haven't done anything. Like, you just said thank you. That doesn't do anything.
No.
Yeah. And I always use my little Starbucks example. Like, for years, I go through the drive-through window at Starbucks, you get your cup of coffee and you say, thank you. And they might even say, you're welcome. And you just drive on. Nothing happened for them. Nothing happened. That wasn't emotional.
No.
But now when I get that same cup of coffee, I'll make sure I look at the barista and I say, thank you so much for making this exactly like I ordered. I can't do this at home. You know, and I say one thing nice to them and they are like, you're welcome. That in that instant, you have an emotional feeling. I mean, it literally takes seconds to do it. It's not like you have to have some superpower or spend all day trying to get emotionally grateful.
Yeah. It's interesting. I swear it's like every time I speak to you, I like literally feel the chemicals of gratitude like in my body. It's so interesting because like lately, because I'm retired city fire and there was so much toxic in my life, and now I'm studying a lot of mindset and gratitude and all the great things, but it's like obviously you're completely right, but like really feeling it rather than just saying it. Because now that I've been paying attention to my body, I definitely can see what happens when I'm going into that fight mode, that stress response mode. And now I'm paying a lot more attention to getting myself into, I guess, would you call it the parasympathetic mode, or like, is that different than gratitude?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but gratitude is one of those things that it has an emotional signature if you use it correctly. So it always is going to anytime you have an emotion, you're also having a chemical reaction. So the emotions of gratitude give you the chemicals of gratitude, which alters brain function. And so that's what we feel when we're truly grateful. But we always thought it was by saying thank you, or, you know, appreciating, you know, taking a new car, for example. We're all grateful for a new car when we first get it. You know, we're all like, nobody's eating French fries in here. We're not. And then, like, you know, two weeks later, the dog's got mud in the back. It's no longer new. And we lost the feeling for the car. Therefore, we lost the chemicals for the car. And so if you can learn to reactivate those chemicals on purpose, you can also reactivate the feeling. And so every day you can feel what it feels like to be grateful. And I always, I think I froze again. I always tell people that your brain is on a spectrum of either automatic or intentional. And it's your choice every day to slide that sucker back over to intentional. Because it's like the pyramid's like this, like it's sliding back to auto, because auto is easy and your brain is lazy. And you have to push it up here to intentional. But the people who have the most intentional lives also have the most successful lives in all aspects of their life.
And is that why the affirmations and journaling in the morning is a good practice to have? Because it's more of like,
Yes.
what do I get
and
to
I'll even
you?
tell you, yes, I'll tell you too, a thing that works for me better than journaling. Cause I don't know if you heard that little thing I did on Clubhouse about gratitude journals and why sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
No.
Okay. So when gratitude journals first came out, you know, everybody was like, oh, I got to get one. And I got to write 10 things every day or 50 things every day, all the stuff. Well, what the new research from Dr. Emmons, he's the world gratitude expert, says now that people who make themselves write their gratitude journal, it's become a job or an obligation, which you cannot trick your brain. Your brain's like, oh,
yeah.
and it's like, girl, you can't stand this, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm writing in my gratitude journal so I can post it on Instagram. But your brain knows what you believe. So if you hate it, stop. It's better to be grateful for one thing in so much detail that you feel as if you're there again than it is to make a list of 100 things. And if in the beginning you made a list of 100 things and you felt joyful about it, that's great. But 6 weeks later, if you're still trying to come up with 100 things every day, that's not going to feel great anymore. Follow your feelings, because your feelings are telling you what your chemicals are doing in your brain. So every morning, this is so easy and everybody can do it in 2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So every morning before you open your eyes, because your brain's visual receptors, there's so many in your brain that they activate all kinds of brain waves. So first thing in the morning, when you're in that kind of sleepy, you know, you're awake, but you could fall back to sleep. We call that the fertile zone of the brain. Your brain is very susceptible there. You can get to that state through meditation. If you happen to be a good meditator, I'm the world's suckiest meditator. So I'll never get to that state in meditation.
Yeah.
But okay. So when you're in deep sleep, your brain's in delta waves. Don't worry about that. But so think about the acronym BAT, beta, alpha, theta.
Yeah.
And theta waves are when you're kind of in that conscious, unconscious, same as meditation. Your brain is very open and porous. So in the morning, when you first get in that spot, stop and take 2 minutes to just think about all the things you're grateful for. So I do, like, I'm grateful for eyes that see, for ears that hear, for legs that take me anywhere I want to go. I'm thankful for a bed that my covers feel like vanilla pudding. I'm grateful for a little dog at the end of my bed who's going to act like he's so excited to see me. I'm grateful for a grumpy 13-year-old in there because he needs me to survive. Just think of whatever it is. But when you feel it, you've activated the chemicals, even if it's just one thing that you hold the thought of it for 2 minutes. But what research shows is those chemicals activated first thing in the morning will last you up to 6 hours in your brain.
I love that.
And most of us, including myself, I used to wake up every day and go, God,
yeah,
get up in the morning. I'm so tired. Why didn't I go to bed sooner? I forgot to iron my shirt. Oh my God. Look at my hair. I got cellulite in these pants, blah, blah, blah. And we're just,
yeah.
Well, we've also activated those chemicals, which can last up to 6 hours in our day.
Interesting.
And it's so important how you start your day, because those are the first activations of neurological chemicals that are going on in your brain.
I love that. And that's so
automatic, intentional.
That's so interesting. And it's funny you say that, because I guess I was doing that on accident. Of every morning I wake up, because I don't wake up to an alarm. I just lie there and then I think, oh my God, I get to say hi to my little dog. And I get so excited because when I call him, he gets so excited. I'm up.
Yes.
So I love that. And I think that's something that everyone can do. Even if you're waking up by an alarm, taking just 1 minute to just be grateful for one thing.
Yes. And I even have, because I have to get up to an alarm because I have to take my 13-year-old to school.
Yeah.
So I have my alarm set on my phone. Then I also have a two minutes later, I also have another alarm. So I know when my first one goes off and I'm just, with my eyes closed, telling it to shut up. And then I know I've got 2 minutes and I just don't think about and sometimes I fall back to sleep. So it's not like, you ruined your brain. Like, just get in the habit of activating chemicals in the morning, and they'll help you throughout the rest of your day.
I loved that, Staci. God, I'm seriously going to be listening to this over and over because I absolutely love everything that you've said today. And I think it's so important to understand like what intentions mean and what gratitude really means. Because if we're just like, oh, gratitude, just be grateful, like say thank you, all those great things, it's not going to do anything for us. So I would love for you to is there any way that the listeners here today can get a hold of you? Where is Staci located?
Yeah. Okay. Mostly on Instagram, and it's easy. Staci Danford.
Yeah.
Staci Danford, but it's Staci with an I. That's where people get confused. And they can go to my website at thegratefulbrain.com. And there is a ton of free stuff on my homepage. You can get all kinds of free gratitude stuff. You can find out what complaining does to your brain. You can get how to activate chemicals in 30 seconds. There's 6 ways to do that. There's all kinds of stuff.
I am for sure checking out your website.
Yeah.
Do you have a YouTube channel or anything?
Yes. And I try to put videos over there.
Yep.
My new podcast, A Mental Makeover, is supposed to start in 3
I didn't know you had. I love it,
weeks.
Staci. I am for sure going to be a fan of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So keep us updated on your podcast. When is your podcast drop? When will your episodes be dropping?
At the end of October.
Awesome. Yeah. And are there certain dates of the week that you're going to drop the episodes on?
Thursdays. I do. And my newsletter goes out on Thankful Thursday. Everything's on Thankful Thursday. Thank you, Andrew. And they can sign up on my homepage too I do a weekly brain boost newsletter, and I love research. I look up brain research every single morning for an hour. And I always trying to keep people up to date on practical tips, like easy things like that morning that they can do to keep their brain on high alert.
Staci, I absolutely love this today. So if you want to reach out to Staci, you can find her on Instagram at Staci Danford. And what was the name of your website? Just one more time.
The Grateful Brain.
Awesome. So Staci, on that, I am literally going to be re-listening to this episode. Staci is also on Clubhouse. We've hosted some rooms together that I absolutely love. Some of the women in Clubhouse are just like unreal. Staci is one of those women that I'm like, I have no idea why more people don't know about you. Like, I think the most powerful, you're going to be the next Oprah Winfrey. I just feel it,
That's what my husband calls me.
Because you're just so grateful and you're such a kind-hearted person and you're just very powerful at the same time with so much knowledge and you just care. So I love it, Staci. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here today and supporting my community and all the things gratitude and mind-brain connection, because so needed and vital for everyone to know for sure.
Everybody needs to know it. I think we all, especially as women, feel so messed up and broken and hurt. Yeah. And I can promise you there's nobody that's hurt any more than I do. And if I can fix my brain, anybody can.
I feel the same flipping way. And I think those women that have been through the stuff are the ones that are going to really impact other people's lives too. So thank you so much for being here today, Staci, again. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. I hope you are so excited about where you're going, because I know I'm excited for you. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with a girlfriend or posted it on social media. Tag me so I could personally say thank you. I am so grateful. And until next time,